Thank you to everyone who has chosen to join this presentation. My name is Kim Mitchell, and this brief slideshow will discuss the overall lessons gleaned from the findings of my doctoral research. This presentation is titled Revolutionizing Writing Pedagogy in Nursing Education, Moving from Staying in the Boundaries to Transformative Writing. Special shout out to my doctoral committee who joined me on this journey and who are listed here. While my doctoral project's main outcome was to develop an instrument to measure writing self-efficacy, I had the opportunity to speak to 20 undergraduate nursing students about writing and nursing education. What I found was that students used particular pre-rehearsed scripts and schemas in order to navigate the writing environment. All students spoke about how the writing they delivered was about meeting teacher needs and making the grade. They were concerned more with figuring out an instructor's biases and preferences and avoiding loss of marks than with improving their writing abilities. But writing is supposed to be about moving deeply into a topic, developing passions, and then absorbing what was learned during the writing into their identities as long-lasting knowledge. The writing environment students described seemed to be exactly the opposite of what we hope for when we assign writing. My findings left me with many questions. How can we help students to move away from feeling the need to stay within the boundaries and move toward transformative writing? How could we help nursing students develop the impulse to write? The data I will present emerged from an instrument development project designed to develop a tool to measure writing self-efficacy. The surveys I distributed during the instrument validation discovered that nursing students were more likely to report disliking writing than undergraduates in other disciplines. Nursing students also had lower self-efficacy levels when compared to students in other disciplines. The theoretical explorations within my dissertation identified that nursing practitioners and students spoke about writing with an anti-academic discourse. Practice knowledge was privileged over theoretical knowledge. Nurses in practice, as well as students, unapologetically questioned the necessity of academic writing in nursing practice. This conflict between theory and practice could be affecting our use of writing as a learning strategy in our education programs. One student during my interview said writing in nursing was about follow the rubric is the thing in nursing, follow the rubric. And every time I came across this quote, I couldn't help but to hum, follow the yellow brick road. One of the themes of the 1936 movie The Wizard of Oz is the power to obtain your desires was within you all along. It occurred to me that this theme was also what self-efficacy was about. The power to master a goal or a skill is always within you. In The Wizard of Oz, the travelers are on a journey down the yellow brick road. They encounter both helpers and roadblocks to their goals. The four main characters, the Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and Dorothy, leaned on each other for support. Our students do the same. The person these travelers most hoped to please was the great and powerful Oz, who in reality, when the curtain was pulled back, was flawed and uncertain. Nursing instructors assigning writing are also often uncertain about their own abilities to support student writing. Many of the environmental factors affecting how writing is assigned is not of our own creation. Writing and the grading of writing is governed by institutional and program rules. Those rules impact how teachers assign writing, and how teachers assign writing impacts student behavior in the writing environment. Let's begin by talking about systems. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my! Nursing education has a hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum contains unintended lessons which are often contradictory to teachings in the regular curriculum. For example, we teach students to value relationality and holism and all that goes along with it, but we show students that objective technical skill mastery is more important and more highly rewarded. Language is power, and learning to speak like a nurse is a huge challenge. This is nursing discourse, but we don't overtly teach students how to speak like a nurse, and we often unconsciously evaluate how well students speak like a nurse before they've had a chance to pick up on all the terminology and language required in the healthcare environment. Lastly, we say we value creativity and aesthetic knowing, but nursing has experienced a shift toward competency-based, metrics-focused education. Many relational and holistic aspects of nursing are impossible to assess using metrics. Focusing on metrics leads to programs and institutions to push for standardization. Standardized rubrics, assigning the same writing topic to every student with no options offered, standardized testing such as NCLEX are all choices that emerge when metrics are prioritized. Even our obsession with student papers submitted in perfect APA is a form of standardization. Focusing too much on standardization and testing knowledge using metrics diminishes the value of assignments that better assess the relational and holistic side of nursing. Systems also affect instructor decisions when they assign writing, and most instructors have good and noble intentions, but many assignment decisions are unconscious. Assignment creation is learned through enculturation practices and driven by system expectations. We learn to teach by how we were taught and through program cultures that dictate what is perceived as standard practice. The 20 students unanimously told me that when they write for their teacher. They felt their assignments were very basic. As one student said, just get the research and fill in the blanks. Straying from the rubric meant losing marks. Adding in a creative spark to their assignments meant 10% off their grade. Students reported that faculty rewrote their grammatically correct sentences to how that faculty member would write it, so their discourse was policed and their unique voices silenced. Most of their feedback was grammar and APA corrections with no acknowledgement for the soundness of their ideas. Despite all this prescriptiveness, grading remained inconsistent, the details of the rubrics were still open to interpretation, and individual instructors had numerous unwavering preferences about what defined correct writing. They found grading to be arbitrary because what worked in one class may not work in the next. And the students? I identified four types of student writers. These four student writers were not mutually exclusive. They switched their behaviors depending on how their writing was responded to in a previous environment and what they felt might be acceptable to their current instructor. All students focused on grades, but students like Scarecrow, concerned only with their brain, focused on grades to the point of selling out their personal values and opinions. Only what the teacher would give the highest marks to mattered. Lion, scarred from previous experiences, had simply learned to never take a risk. Taking a risk, like being creative in a way not explicitly mentioned by a teacher, putting a new twist on a topic, or choosing a risky, difficult to research topic, was dangerous to academic success. Dorothy, looking for a home, is trying to fit in. She can never quite figure out how writing works in nursing because it's always changing. Dorothy goes to tutors and seeks help, but when she gets her marks back, she finds out she still didn't meet the assignment guidelines. The Tin Man, searching for a heart, wishes to preserve his own sense of self no matter the consequences. Tin Man wants to love and feel something for what he is writing, and if this means expressing an opinion different than the teacher, so be it. Tin Man will write his assignments in a way that will most help his learning, regardless of the consequences. Among the 20 students I interviewed, the students like Scarecrow were usually privileged students with university experience or from highly educated families. Students like Lion and Dorothy were often students of color, immigrant students, and students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Students like Tin Man were free spirits and rebels. Sometimes he was a privileged student who knew when to break the rules, and sometimes he was a disadvantaged student who had given up trying to figure out the rules. Sometimes Tin Man faced great penalties for straying from the norm, but sometimes he also found great reward. But he can never predict which outcome he'll get. All he knows is, I don't want to write your paper, I want to write my paper. When students talked about assignments they valued, assignments that allowed them to make their own topic choices and had built in flexibility, they reported learning the most and that the grades received mattered less. They took the knowledge they gained from their assignment and it became part of their identity. How can we move writing pedagogy forward so that all students see growth to their nursing identities in the same way? First, recognize your power as a faculty member. A student's tendency to hyper-focus on teacher needs is a reflection of that power. Grades matter and faculty assign grades. Those grades make or break a student's future goals. Next, loosen the reins. Allow students to negotiate their writing context. Allowing for choice and style better accommodates learning the relational holistic discourse. It invites creativity and reduces power differentials. We often choose to highly structure assignments, believing it will increase fairness in grading in some way, but students still reported inconsistencies, even in standardized environments. Prescriptive assignments further advantage privileged and experienced students like Scarecrow, but disadvantaged students like Lion and Dorothy who found the details confusing and were sometimes deterred from asking for clarification. Third, reconsider grading practices. Grading is an institutional policy that increases student inequities within writing pedagogies. I encourage all viewers of this presentation to explore the ungrading movement. I recommend this recent book edited by Susan Bloom, which provides several examples on how to assign grades without actually assigning grades. Some of those strategies include qualitative iterative feedback, negotiating final grades with students through self-grading and peer review, and assigning all or nothing marks for satisfactory completion of particular assignment components. Ungrading requires a paradigm shift in thinking away from traditional systems and a willingness to thumb your nose at those systems just a little bit. It requires ability to give up control and comfort with scaffolded teaching methods. Ungrading shifts focus from metrics and grades to student learning gains. It shifts teacher time away from that pile of 50 papers on your desk at the end of the term and relocates that time to coaching students on a week-to-week basis. With that final word, I will conclude my presentation. I will provide on this slide the QR codes for accessing the 3 published papers that form this presentation. I also encourage you all to use the QR code to watch this short animated video, which summarizes the findings of the qualitative interviews I conducted with the 20 students. Thank you all for joining this presentation.